Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for Monday, August 10th, 2020. On today's episode, we're going to discuss the latest film and TV news. This is Slash Film Editor-in-Chief Peter Sciretta, and joining me on today's podcast is Slash Film Weekend Editor Brad Oman.
Hey, that's me.
Senior Writer Ben Pearson.
Hey, what's going on?
And writers Hoai-Tran.
Hey, everyone.
And Chris Evangelista.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, we have a full house here today. Usually it's only a couple people that write the big stories of the last couple days on the site, but for some reason it's been like spread across the ranks of the Slash Film staff. So, okay, let's jump into it. Let's jump into some news that broke today. Some Star Wars casting news. Ben, tell us about it.
Yes, Disney's Rogue One prequel series, the one that stars Diego Luna as Cassian Andor, reprising that role from Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, has found one of its lead actresses. This actress, her name is Adria Arjona, and she's been in several things, but has really not made much of a mark in any of them. Her film credits include movies like Six Underground, The Belko Experiment, Pacific Rim Uprising, Triple Frontier. Like these are pretty decent sized movies. Some of them are actually very big, but
she was in Good Omens, actually, in quite a major role. Although to be fair, every role in that show kind of gets the air sucked out of it by David Tennant and Michael Sheen, but she was good in it.
Okay, all right, that's good to hear. I mean, she was in True Detective also. I just don't really remember her in any of this, and I know that seems like I'm insulting her, but I really think it's more of like a diss to the writing of those projects than, you know, her abilities as a performer. So I'm really hoping, you know, that basically she's been cast in the show. The Deadline, who broke the news, didn't have any information about what character she was playing, but
yeah, who do we think she could be playing in this series?
Well, we've heard some rumors that she may end up playing. She might be playing Cassian Andor's sister, and as far as I can tell, that character, the sister, has never been mentioned in any of the canonical stuff that Lucasfilm has made. So she was not mentioned in Rogue One. I don't know if she's also a member of the Resistance or just like, you know, somebody who's on the, you know, the Andor family farm back home or whatever. I have no idea what the potential circumstances surrounding her character might be. But yeah, we've heard some rumors that she may be Cassian's sister. So, you know, there's some potential there. Certainly. I'm just hoping that, like I said before, like I've seen her in several things, but she's made so little a mark in any of those projects, I think largely due to the scripts, that I'm hoping that this project is the one that really like gives her a boost and actually like lets her show off her chops and like tells us what she can do.
Yeah. And we should say this because when Star Wars news is reported, there's a lot of times where people like to make assumptions based on looks of like, you know, who's related to Rey because they have a certain color hair or you know, whatever. You know, we're not basing this based on just her ethnicity, but also there was some casting that leaked out of them trying to cast a flashback that involved Cassian's sister. So I don't know. There's just some rumors in the rumor mill that that's who it could be. We don't know for sure, but and I think that's one of the two female leads. So there's another female lead that we don't know about yet. I'm sure we'll learn about that soon as production is going to begin. Okay, let's move on to some sequel news that I didn't think we were going to get. They are moving forward on this Tron sequel, or is it Tron Legacy sequel? It's a movie in the Tron universe. Chris, tell us about it.
Yes. So after several years of false starts, there's now a report that Garth Davis, who directed Lion and a few other things, is going to direct the new Tron movie, and Jared Leto is going to star. Jared Leto has been attached for a while now. It's also worth noting that this report also stresses that Disney really hasn't given this a green light yet, despite, you know, the headlines. The actual quote is, quote, "Insiders still stress a green light has not been given and that it's still in development. But Davis's involvement is a push in the right direction." Apparently, Garth Davis really has been aggressively pursuing this gig, and Disney likes his idea. But again, this is still not 100% official, and for all we know, this could end up falling apart.
Yeah, and to be clear, we report all the time that something has been like, something is happening. There's so many. Hollywood is confusing in the stages of like, where the thing is in the process of development. And usually when a director is hired to develop a thing, that has not been greenlit. Do you know what I mean? Like it's usually once they get a script and they got a budget and, whole studio, everybody signs off on it, then it becomes greenlit. But I'm guessing they're saying that in this piece because, there's a rabid fandom behind Tron. People are excited about Tron. I haven't seen the movie Lion, which Davis has done. Chris, have you seen that?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I don't have anything against Garth Davis as a person or a filmmaker. It's just, this seems like a very boring choice. Like, I feel like Disney could probably do better than Garth Davis, but again, he's really been pushing for this. So I guess the moral of the story is, if you bug Disney enough, they will give you a giant franchise.
Well, I'm sure he had a good pitch. There was a good idea there, and maybe him and Jared Leto kicked it off. But did you see anything in Lion that made you think like, oh, this guy, I can see why Disney would want this guy to make a Tron sequel?
Yes, that big light cycle sequence in Lion really sold me on this. So yeah.
But no, is there anything in that movie? I'm assuming no. Again,
no. He's not like, I don't think he's a bad director. He's just, they could do better. They could also do better than Jared Leto. I don't know who this movie is for, is what I'm saying. I mean, Jared Leto, whatever. Tron Legacy had Cillian Murphy in it right there. He's a much better actor than Jared Leto. Why not make him the lead? Is he? I'm sure he would do it. Give him some money. He'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point there. I'm not a big fan of Jared Leto. I did like Tron Legacy. I do think the visual design of that movie is so awesome, and that score is incredible. If they can get Daft Punk to come back to do another score in the Tron verse, which I'm not sure they can because there were some rumors of some falling out, and Hans Zimmer's team having to finish some of the music for that score. I'm not sure how true any of that is, but if they can get them to come back, that alone, I think would, like, the Tron Legacy score is the Tron Legacy score like one of the best original film scores of like the last 30 years.
It's definitely up there. I like the score better than the movie. So yeah, it's definitely up there.
I can't think of a film score that I've listened to more in the last 10 years, like on repeat. It's just, I don't know. So if we get that, I will be happy. But okay, let's move on. Let's talk about Marvel's Captain Marvel 2. They have finally found a filmmaker to helm that. HD, tell us about it.
Yes, Marvel has tapped Nia DaCosta, the director of the highly anticipated Candyman reboot coming out this October, to direct Captain Marvel 2, making her the first ever Black female director for a Marvel movie. She'll be taking the reins over from Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, who wrote and directed the first Captain Marvel movie starring Brie Larson. And there's no news yet on who is and whether she will be adding a new script to the film, which has been penned by Megan McDonnell, the story editor for the Marvel-based series WandaVision. But this is exciting news. She joins the elite group of female filmmakers who are helming superhero tentpoles, and the even more elite group of Black filmmakers directing comic book movies. She is, again, the only Black female filmmaker for a Marvel movie, so it's big history-making stuff.
Yeah, I will say this, Marvel tends to hire filmmakers that are like from like the indie scene. Her first film, Little Woods, premiered at Tribeca, was distributed by Neon, and obviously she's going to be making this Candyman remake. I obviously haven't seen Candyman. I haven't seen Little Woods. HD, have you seen Little Woods?
I have, and it's really, really excellent. I actually got to see it at Tribeca in 2018, and I was blown away by this movie. I was actually really shocked when I learned that it was her debut feature because it's so confidently and assuredly directed. It's this wonderful, haunting neo-Western starring Tessa Thompson and Lily James as two sisters who are forced to enter the opioid drug dealing sort of business in order to pay for the Lily James character's abortion. And it is kind of reminds me of a sort of female response to Hell or High Water, that kind of grim middle America new Western that deals in the realities of today's economically depressed country. And it's just really, it's a really great film. It's really hard and kind of bleak, but it's she gets such great performances out of Tessa Thompson and Lily James, and I was really excited for her when I heard that she was directing Candyman, even though I don't really have any connections to Candyman, but she's getting a lot of just buzz and play for this reboot, which is, you know, still kind of showing Jordan Peele's names all over the ads instead of hers. But I really believe that she is such a promising, talented, rising director. And I'm excited to see what she has in store for Captain Marvel too. I think she will be able to have a handle on the character drama really well. And I do hope that she'll be able to take more of a part in the action scenes, which I think were one of the major lacking parts of Captain Marvel, which felt very obviously done by second unit director versus Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, who come from the indie world as well. And I hope that Nia DaCosta will have more of a overall creative grasp on everything.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts of the original Captain Marvel was Captain Marvel's relationship with oh my God, what's her name? She has the necklace Monica. I don't what is her name in the movie? Yeah, or that's her last name, right? Rambeau?
Yeah, Monica Rambeau.
Or it is Monica Rambeau. I thought her kid was
Monica Rambeau is the kid.
Oh.
The Wonder Weiss's character, correct?
Yes, LaShonda Lynch, who plays Maria Rambeau. Yeah, it's easy to get confused because she has on her neck a necklace that says Monica, which is referencing her kid. And I like that relationship so much. Like, that to me was like the heart and core of that movie. And obviously, you know, I'm guessing this is going to be set in the future, so it's going to be more of a relationship between her and maybe Monica Rambeau. So I could definitely see that. But I am glad that Marvel, it really seemed like with the first Captain Marvel, they were kind of going halfway with the female director. They're like, they felt the pressure that they needed a female director, but weren't able to find someone that they were either, I don't know. It just seemed weird having who they had as the directors of that movie. I'm glad that they were able to find a female director that could probably tap into this in a major way. And it seems like she's not being brought on just because she is a female director. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you enjoyed that movie. It's a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes as Littlewood.
And it's also streaming on Hulu now. I also wrote about it on my recent quarantine stream. You guys should really check it out.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to another thing. MacGruber. This is a cult classic movie that Christopher Nolan is a big a fan of. And, fans have been demanding a MacGruber sequel ever since it premiered at South by Southwest many years ago, I guess, at this point. It seems like they're not going to get the movie sequel, but they might they're going to get a TV sequel. Brad, tell us about it.
Indeed. As we heard back in January, there was development of a MacGruber series that was going to be heading to NBC Universal's streaming service, Peacock. But even though it was in development, series order hadn't been handed down yet. But that changed today. Peacock announced at their Television Critics Association panel that the series has been given an order for 8 episodes. Jorma Taccone will be back to direct all of them. Will Forte will be back as MacGruber, in addition to writing and executive producing. And yeah, this is just the best possible news. We've been waiting for this to get off the ground for a while, and I'm pumped.
MacGruber seems like the perfect movie that could be turned into a great TV series. I mean, obviously it's based on MacGyver. I guess my worry is like once you make it a TV series, then there's the worry that it might become too much of MacGyver and not its own thing.
No, I don't think so, because like just because you make it, whether it's episodic or serial, I'm sure that it'll have the same spirit of the movie, and the movie doesn't necessarily require a dedicated story arc where the characters truly evolve or anything like that. Like it's meant to be a parody of these action movies and of MacGyver. And if you can bring that to TV, then not much is going to change. And the premise of the series doesn't even sound like it's that much different from what the movie sequel might have been anyway, because it has MacGruber being released from prison. He's taking down a new mysterious villain from his past, Brigadier Commander Enos Queeth. And he's back with Kristen Wiig and Ryan Phillippe, and have to take on these bad guys. So it's gonna be fun.
So are you happy that this is happening over a movie? Because a movie would have only been like 90 minutes or 2 hours. Now you're going to get what, 6 hours? Is this a half an hour or an hour?
It's a half hour series.
So I guess you're getting 3 hours or something like
4
that,
hours.
Right? It's 6 episodes or 4 hours. It's 8 episodes. Yeah. So are you happy that you're going to get more time with MacGruber?
I'm happy to get any more time with MacGruber, no matter how long it is. But the fact that it is longer than what a movie would have been is definitely good news. And I'm hoping that if it's successful, that maybe it'll continue. But at the same time, if it took them this long to get this off the ground, maybe it'll just be a limited series. It's not clear yet.
I kind of love with these streaming services that we're getting some things that they need subscribers so badly that they're willing to tap into like these markets of fans that might otherwise not be able to be enough people to warrant like a theatrical movie, but are enough to be like a loss leader to get people to sign up for a streaming service. And yes, that also does include the Snyder Cut. But yeah. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about John Wick. We have learned last week that John Wick 5 is happening. Ben, tell us about it.
Yes, John Wick 5 is happening. It's actually going to film back-to-back with John Wick 4. So last we heard, John Wick 4 was, going to be essentially the end of the... I don't think they ever actually came out and promised that it was going to be the end of the franchise. But that was the last movie that we knew was in development and involving John Wick. But there's supposed to be spin-offs and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of the actual Keanu Reeves starring John Wick movies, we thought 4 might be the end of the line. And that is not the case. They're actually going to film John Wick 5 back to back with the 4th one. So John Wick 4 is supposed to come out in theaters on Memorial Day weekend. And that's 2022, by the way. So things have been. It's going to be a long time before we see John Wick 5.
And all of all the villains, all of a sudden, are wearing some kind of mask. We don't know why, but they are.
I would not be surprised. They already had that thing in chapter 3 where, there was that big motorcycle sword fight sequence where everybody was wearing helmets. So it's very easy. And I think there was actually a big body armor thing at the end of chapter 3 where everybody was wearing big, masks and stuff like that, headgear and big body armor stuff. So I would not be surprised to see them actually in terms of coronavirus prevention kind of stuff, adopt more of that in the future. So, yeah, it's weird. The third movie, I think at one point they were talking about that maybe being the end of the entire John Wick saga.
Yeah.
But Chad Stahelski, who's the director, he said that while they were wrapping up that movie, he looked at Keanu Reeves and they both said, okay, we're good here. I think we've accomplished everything that we want to accomplish. But then I guess they had an extra idea for something else that they really wanted to do. So
they didn't accomplish more money. They saw the more money and they're like, you know what? We have another idea. Do you think because this is shooting back to back with John Wick 4 that we might get like a Back to the Future Part 2 kind of cliffhanger?
Oh yeah, I would not be surprised, because the third movie essentially ends with a cliffhanger. Like the third movie, and spoiler alert for that film, but it ends with John Wick getting shot so many times that he falls off the roof of a massive building, and then his body is not on the ground when people go down to check for him, and we realize that he's like massively injured, and he's teamed up with Lawrence Fishburne's character, the Bowery King. So the two of them seem to be like ready to lick their wounds and go back out for revenge. So, that movie definitely ends with almost a literal cliffhanger. And so I'm sure the idea of them filming 2 in a row is going to, provide them ample opportunity to do something even more dramatic in between.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about Ben Affleck. He's signed on to direct a movie about the making of Chinatown. Chris, what do we know?
There's a book that was recently published called The Big Goodbye, and it's all about the making of Chinatown. And it's a really great book, and now it's becoming a movie. Ben Affleck's going to direct it. He's also going to write it. And this is going to be very interesting because literally every single character in this story is a famous person. I mean, Jack Nicholson, Roman Polanski, Robert Towne, Robert Evans. So they're going to have to really go all out and find actors to play all of these, in some cases, iconic figures. And it'll be very interesting to see who plays who and how distracting that might be, or how, it might end up working. I really don't know. I imagine.
Who do you think is going to play Jack Nicholson?
I really don't know, man. I mean, I've seen some people suggesting like Leonardo DiCaprio, and that actually is a pretty good choice. But I also feel like the material here is while not the same, it's very close to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Just the era and stuff like that. And Roman Polanski as a figure in the story, and I feel like he's not going to want to do something that similar. I also don't know how big the budget is going to be on this, like how many, like if they're going to go for like big names here, if they're going to go for more obscure actors. I really don't know. It's hard to say.
Who's Ben Affleck going to play? Because he almost always puts himself in the movies he directs.
Yeah, I can't imagine him playing any of these people, but so yeah, I don't know if he'll actually put himself in this, or if he'll do like he did with Gone Baby Gone, and he takes a backseat and doesn't actually appear in the film. I guess we'll see.
Why don't we get Jack Nicholson?
What if Affleck plays Nicholson?
I mean, that would be terrible, but I really want to see it. So,
yeah, I want to see his. I feel like that would be an impersonation performance, and not a performance.
It would be kind of amazing. So maybe that should happen.
What if we got Jack Nicholson to return and we use that like Marvel technology, the de-aging technology, so he could play himself as a younger man?
That would look amazing. So yes, let's do that too. Any of these options are really good ideas. I hope you're listening, Ben Affleck.
Yeah. Or they don't have the budget for that, so they just use some makeup. I'm sure we can make Jack Nicholson look like he.
Yeah, he looks the same as he did in 1974.
It's all fine. Okay, let's talk about a story that hit over the weekend. That is that Disney is they might be abandoning 4K physical releases of catalog titles, and this includes 20th Century Fox films. HD, what do we know?
Yes, there's a new report from the Digital Bits that says that Disney does not have any plans for future 4K Ultra HD releases of its catalog titles apart from Disney, Pixar, Star Wars, and Marvel-related projects. The outlet reports that Disney is abandoning 4K physical media in order to focus on building its streaming service, Disney+. And it does, and this also, includes the 20th Century Fox library, which includes films like Fight Club, The French Connection, True Lies, Aliens, Master and Commander, etc., as well as many Searchlight Picture titles. So those who are wishing for 4K high-def releases of these films might be a little disappointed in future years. But there is a chance that Disney will offer the licenses to its less in-demand catalog titles to indie studios like Criterion, Arrow, or Shout Factory. And there's also a chance that the studio might release 4K editions of Aliens, Avatar, True Lies to appease Avatar filmmaker James Cameron, which is because his franchise Avatar is something that Disney is also heavily invested in. But it's all kind of up in the air. This is a report from an outlet that it has not yet been confirmed or denied by Disney, so it's something, to take with a grain of salt. But it does sort of follow up on the tails of a report from last year that Disney was withholding classic Fox titles from repertory screenings. So it seems that this is kind of a practice that Disney might be taking with its catalog titles, which is not as important to the House of Mouse, and just kind of burying them in the vault. And it doesn't really bode well for future physical media releases from the studio.
Yeah, and we should say, while this isn't confirmed, this is from the Digital Bits, and this is from Bill Hunt, who I think was writing about DVDs when I was still working at Best Buy way back 2 decades ago. He is very credible. So I would believe that this is the plans. So I guess the question now is, like, if Disney is going to be doing this, if they're not going to be doing 4K digital or 4K physical releases. I'm assuming they're still going to be doing 4K, renders of these films and releasing them on digital and on Disney Plus and stuff like that. But if they're not going to be doing 4K physical releases, is this the beginning of the end of physical media? Because, like, they're the biggest studio, right?
Yeah, they own a large portion of our cinematic history now, because of their ownership. They reside over not only Disney but 20th Century Fox, Searchlight Pictures, Pixar, Lucasfilm. So it is a vast majority. So it does seem like this is going to put a big, at least like backpedal or like a break. Put a little big break on just physical media in general.
But it also seems to me like that if Disney thinks they can make money on a 4K physical release, like they're saying Star Wars, Marvel, probably. Did you say big Pixar films?
Yeah, they said that Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars will still get these 4K physical releases.
So I'm guessing it's just like you're not going to get the 4K release of a film that, didn't do over, $600 million domestically or something like that. Like, I think it's more of that kind of thing. Chris, I know you're a big collector of physical media. What do you have to say about this?
This sucks, and it's bad, and it should not be happening. I don't like the idea of corporations like Disney controlling so much of our our film history, and I don't like the idea of having everything be digital. I know it's more convenient. I know it cuts down on room and space and all that stuff. I understand that, but I don't trust like Disney to control that sort of thing. Like I want to have a physical copy. I want to have it on my shelf to know I actually quote unquote own it. If I left it up to Disney, they could just, one day be like, we're pulling this. You don't have it anymore in your library. And that would suck. And I don't want to hear that, they would never do that, because
But that rarely happens. That's happened like once or twice in the history of movies on...
That's what? Once or twice too many times, Peter. I want the movie. If I'm buying the movie, I want the movie. And I don't really see any way around that.
And aside from that too, it's like streaming in 4K is never going to look as good as a hard copy of the movie will on a 4K disc with a 4K HD Blu-ray player.
I would not say never there, Brad, because we're getting better. We're getting fiber, and I think at some day you're going to have better quality than a Blu-ray disc.
Yeah, but are we going to have better quality corporations that don't throttle our internet or make it slower and make it so that we can't actually watch them in there, even if we're capable of doing it?
Yeah. Okay, I will say this. You know that I am a proponent of non-physical media, of streaming and digital. I own a lot of stuff on digital. I used to own over almost 3,000 DVDs. I had like walls and walls of DVDs. I feel so free from not having to own that collection and not have all that room taken up. That said, I'm always for the option, for the consumer option. Like, if a consumer should have the choice of getting something physical or digital, I just don't understand why Disney wouldn't like, at least if there's a demand out there for it, why not just like have a print on demand? Like, you know how Warner Brothers, they used to have their archive collection where you could go online and order a movie and it would like literally be burned and printed on DVD or Blu-ray for you and sent to you in the mail. Like, why not do that if you're not going to release them in stores? Because maybe there isn't enough of a demand for these 4K releases in stores. But I mean,
and would
you be okay with that?
Warner Brothers still does have that, by the way.
Oh, they still do.
Yeah.
Okay, for some reason I thought they didn't. Would you guys be okay with that? Like, if that was where we went, where they're still available, but it's not like at Best Buy and it's not with like super duper special edition special features, but you could get the movies 4K if you ordered online.
Yeah, I think that would be better option than not having it available at all. So, I mean, it makes more, there probably is less demand for these kind of movies, but I just like the idea that, you know, these movies are available in some capacity and not buried in a vault somewhere.
Yeah. No, I do want to point out that I don't think Disney's like this evil corporate. Well, okay, you can argue if Disney's an evil corporation, but I think this decision isn't made of like, we're going to keep the movies away from them. I think it really comes to like, they're looking at the bottom line numbers and seeing how much money it costs to produce these releases and release them, and how many are getting sent back to the company, not being bought, and them losing money. Versus like, do you know what I mean? It is a supply and demand, or not a supply and demand. It is a demand thing that I think they're seeing, but I think there's ways around that. Like, I think there's a on demand solution here. So, okay, we have two other stories. We've already gone over our 30 minutes, but I want to get to these today. One perfect shot is this Twitter account. They post up perfect frames from your favorite movies, and it's now getting a TV series. Ben, tell us about it.
Yes, Ava DuVernay, the director of When They See Us and Selma and 13th, is going to be executive producing and narrating a One Perfect Shot TV series for HBO Max. So it is not necessarily, it's not at all a show about like the creation of the Twitter account or anything like that. It's basically sort of paying homage to and documenting the art of directing and chronicling the craft of great filmmakers. So the premise of the show actually sounds kind of cool. They're going to be using this technology where one director comes in for each episode, and they're given what they're calling an arsenal of visual tools to pull back the curtain on their most iconic shots. Using state-of-the-art technology, the directors will literally enter each shot, walking through the scene in 360-degree moments that allow viewers to join an immersive exploration of movie making. So it's going to physically put these directors in like a 3D rendering of their own movies, which is kind of cool and should be a walk down memory lane for a lot of these people. We don't know exactly which directors are going to be involved yet, but one of the executives at HBO Max said in a press release that this show is going to be celebrating, quote unquote, the most beloved films of all time. So that sounds like they're going to be getting some pretty big names coming through here. So your Spielbergs, your Scorseses, what have you, I'm sure all of these people will be dropping by. I'm just curious now, like, if Steven Spielberg, for example, only comes by for one episode, how are they going to narrow down like what his one perfect shot moment is? Well,
it has to be that moment from Close Encounters with the light coming through the door, right? Like that. I feel like that's his perfect shot for me.
I don't know if if this is a joke, Peter, if you're just saying this in order to set up an instance where all of us go around the circle and say our own favorite moment.
It's certainly not a joke. I would pick that as my perfect Spielberg shot.
Okay.
Like, what would you pick?
God, I don't know. I think I would have to defer to Chris, who's doing a podcast about Steven Spielberg right now. But there are so many. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. There's a million options. But Chris, I'm curious, what would you want to see Spielberg sort of walk through in this way?
Man, I don't know. There's so much to choose from. I don't think I could even narrow it down to one thing. Honestly, it's like, just like off the top of my head, like a million different shots come to mind. So yeah, I could not. I also don't think Steven Spielberg will do this show, but that's me. He seems like he doesn't like to talk about his work like that, so I don't think he'll actually do it.
I don't know. He's friends with Ava. Who knows? I guess, on the surface, this sounds like an amazing idea. And by the way, disclosure alert, this is being produced by Neil Miller, who is a friend of mine. And I think he's a friend of some of the other people on this podcast. He's the guy that runs the One Perfect Shot Twitter account. So that has been disclosed up front here. That said, like, I'm kind of not sure the story behind a shot is as good as the story behind like moments. And I'm wondering if it's going to be more dealing with like the making of like a moment or a sequence, like, because this Twitter account is like still frames, right? So like, I'm wondering if this is going to deal like, are you going to have Scorsese go on there and he's going to walk you through, Goodfellas walking the Steadicam shot, walking through the kitchen and stuff like that. Is it going to be that, or is it literally going to be that one frame and you're walking through that one framing, telling the story of that? Like, do you guys, what do you think? Is this is there a good idea here of adapting this Twitter account into a TV series adaptation?
I think it's a cool idea, and I think they, I think One Perfect Shot is the hook that gets you in the door. It's a familiar name brand thing. This is a popular Twitter account, and I think everybody sort of like inherently understands the basic idea of what they're trying to do. I think it could change even on an episode by episode basis in terms of like how extensive they want to get, or if they want to just minimize it down to like a single frame within a shot. Like, we were talking about Spielberg, like if they just want to talk about the image in ET of the the bike in front of the moon, like I'm sure they could spend a lot of time talking about the construction, the inspiration of that shot, talking about the cinematographer and the way that Spielberg, like, I think that's what a lot of the show is going to be, is like putting up the art of cinematography and like bringing that stuff to the forefront, and like I said, talking about craft and things like that. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to sort of take this name as just like a springboard and jump off, depending on how much, depending on the shot, depending on the filmmaker, how much they want to talk about stuff. You could probably stretch it out to like entire scenes if you wanted to, even, beyond just sequences even.
Yeah. I'm excited. Anything that gives us access to explore the filmmaking history in a way that, like, there's a lot of Netflix shows and stuff that don't really dive too deep because they don't have the budget, or they don't have, someone like Ava producing it. So I'm excited that we might actually get, maybe there will be a Spielberg episode where he's going through his favorite, or the favorite shots from his movies. That would be pretty cool. It would also, like, I don't know. I'm guessing Neil and Ava have this already all figured out. But if they were going to do that, I wish they could use the Twitter account, One Perfect Shot, to have like a Twitter vote on, like, what are Spielberg's, what are the best shots in Spielberg's, and then have him deal with those. And they're not just like arbitrarily picking shots, like somehow, make the Twitter account more a part of it in some way. Anyways, okay, let's move on to our final story. This one, I guess maybe a little bit of a spoiler warning. It's for Jurassic World Dominion. And this is a photo that has been tweeted out. So it's an official photo. But if you want to stay away from it, you can, tap out now. Brad, tell us about this story.
So the photo wasn't actually tweeted out, but director Colin Trevorrow sent it over to Jurassic Outpost, which is a Jurassic Park fan site that covers everything tied to the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World franchises. And the photo shows a metal InGen crate that has warning signs on it about liquid nitrogen and severe cold. And it's presumably meant to hold dinosaur embryos, because as we saw in the original Jurassic Park, they put the dinosaur embryos in these freezing containment units that use liquid nitrogen to keep them cold so that they would last for a long time. And so since this is an InGen crate that gives us the idea that that's likely what's in there. The more interesting detail about this crate is that at the bottom it says Site B, Isla Sorna, which is the secondary island that we saw in the Jurassic Park, The Lost World, or The Lost World Jurassic Park, as the title was, where they had a facility that they used to breed the dinosaurs before they took them over to Jurassic Park. But it was abandoned due to a hurricane that went through there, so scientists abandoned the area. They let the dinosaurs freeze because they had a better chance of survival in the storm than they did being stuck in the facility. And that island ended up being ran over with dinosaurs. and InGen took advantage of that situation to go get them in an attempt to bring them back to San Francisco for a mainland attraction with dinosaurs. And we all know how that went. So the fact that this is a container that apparently has either come from or come to Isla Sorna is interesting, because it could mean either they have reactivated this site, which is apparently something that was mentioned in some viral marketing for both Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom. I guess they were using it for secret testing and genetic stuff before Jurassic World actually opened. But there's also the possibility that maybe this is some kind of flashback, because I was thinking that they recently announced that the character Dodgson is from the original movie is coming back, even though he's being played by a different actor. And I was thinking, since he didn't get the dinosaur embryos that first time from Dennis Nedry, that maybe there's some kind of flashback where he's trying again to get them from this secondary site, and maybe we'll see Site B up and running as it was at the height of the time when Jurassic Park was supposed to be a thing. But it's an interesting detail, because we don't really know what this means, or where the embryos came from, if they've been holding on to them this whole time, if they were there, because the crate is in pristine condition. It's not like they grabbed it from the island and it was stuck there for a long time and it's just been sitting waiting for someone to find it. So unclear at this point what this means.
Well, I'm curious to see how this plays out. We'll have to watch the movie and find out. That does it for us for today's episode of Slash Film Daily. You can find more of all our work at slashfilm.com. You can find this podcast on iTunes, Google, Overcast, Spotify, all the popular podcast apps. Please feel free to send your feedback, questions, comments, concerns to us at peter@slashfilm.com. And rate and review this podcast on iTunes. Tell your friends, spread the word, and we'll see you on Wednesday.